everybody, so here's what we're doing today. This is the Winjet fog light kit from FT86 Speed Factory, and it literally comes with everything. It's got the bezels, it's the yellow lights, and these are the glass housing, which is what I wanted. It's got all the wiring in it and everything you need. Now apparently there's some real big to do about figuring out how to get the switched positive, and everything that I've read, I really don't see why this is a big deal. They literally even give you a dummy sheet here, and they give you extra wire, which I'm not sure why we're going to need that, and they give you one of these things that don't work and they corrode and stop making connection. So we're not going to mess with that. We're going to wire this in the way it needs to be done. We're not going to be putting a power wire that can melt and fuse together underneath the fuse and hope that it makes a connection. We're going to pull the fuse box down. It's going to take us 5 minutes, and we're going to actually splice this wire into a fused wire that's a switched positive. So let's go and put the actual harness in first, and we've got to hook this very extensively long power wire to the battery, and we've got the relay that we're going to mount somewhere that's not visible because we don't like wires, and we're going to secure an easy to access location for our fuse block. I'm not a fan of how that fuse block is, but if we ever have problems with that, we can just simply get a better fuse block. And don't mind the baby, that's a Mardi Gras thing that people put on my car. And the harness goes down, and this is our driver's side, or the passenger side plug, and here's the driver's side, and then this is going to go up through the firewall, and this is going to go into the back of the switch, and here's a switch. So it's actually a very simple process. I don't know why I bothered reading about it that much, but let's go get under the car. So here's where we are going to do this. Some of you have the red cap here over the positive. You can just pull that off. So here's our positive wire that's going to be our constant. And I followed the wiring harness down here, as you can see. And I've gone under the fuse box, took my cover off so I could see where I was going. And I actually ran the hot wire directly under here to come out right here. Now, where to bolt the relay so we have access to it and the fuse block. It seems we have a little bolt right here. And I'm going to take that bolt out. I'm going to put that relay right under that bolt there. Might have to drill that hole out on the little mounting tab, but it won't be that big of a deal. And that wire is going to be hid, and I'm going to use my electrical tape and a couple of zip ties to make sure this wire doesn't chafe anywhere and connect this. But this is going to be one of the last things that I actually connect. So after we do that, we've got the actual harness, and we're going to go down here, and this is our main bumper support right here. We're going to go down here, and you can sort of see the back of the fog light down here. So what we're going to do, so we get access to see what we're doing, is we're going to pull off the bezels here. We're going to pull off the front grille. We're going to pull off this bezel here. They've got to come off anyway. And in the end, after we get this wire run, it's going to come up down here, and we're going to follow underneath the fender liner here if we can. Won't be able to follow too much without getting to a big project, so we're going to go up here and we're going to follow these wires, and this is our hood release cable here. We're going to follow them back until we get my lighting right down here. Now this little rubber nipple sticking out, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the very end off, and that's a little hollow tube, and that's going to get us through the firewall. And through there we're going to run this wire right here, and that's pretty much all we're going to be running through the firewall. So that'll be a very easy thing to do. So like I said, let's get these bezels off and pull the grill out so we can see what we're doing, get this wired good. And I suggest carefully with your paint. I have a set of the interior trim pieces. See if we can find a gap here one-handed so I can do it on camera. There we go. We're going to need a little bit of get this thing set so we can see what I'm doing here. there's that one done. And our wires are going to come down here, and fog light's actually going to bolt right there. So that's it out of the way. And for the grill, got to be gentle with these because apparently this doesn't like to stay in very well. There we go. I actually had this off once before. There. Okay. So now we should be able to run our wire down under here. Keep it pulled nice and taut. So when we get over here, we can keep it secured. I'm going to try to keep some of that glare off the camera there. Need a bigger wedge to get in here on this. And there we go. So now that we've got those off, we can start running that wire down through there like I said. And I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bolt this relay on and get this power wire where it needs to be. And then we're going to pull all the slack that we can to start going down into the bottom of the bumper. So now I have my wire tended through here. I have it secured down through there. I don't like that it's visible here. I might rotate it underneath the wire loom so you don't see it. And I have it down here and taped down there. Now, there's the fuse. Make sure that it's not chafing on any ends down here, especially on the fuse block, which I have just sitting up here. So now all that's left is we're actually going to send the wire loom down there. Recap. I was hurting my back, so I drove it up on ramps for one thing. So anyway, here we are. I have the one section of the harness sticking out here, and I have just a little zip tie to hold my loom. I had some extra wiring, so I bundled it together here. And I popped the bottom of the grill out and ran the wires along here, and the next time I have this bumper off, I'm going to secure it. But without pulling the bumper, I can't secure that without removing underbody panels, and we'll do that another time. So it came around. Here's the driver's side, and I ran the wires up. Now the ground wire ended about here, and without pulling the headlight out, which I easily could have pulled the headlight out if I took the bumper off, and if I took the bumper off I could have found a bolt to ground the bottom. But instead, all I did was add a foot of ground wire, which we can see here, and I've secured the wire right there. Same as I did on the other side. Same bolt I did for the relay, I did right there. So I followed the wires and actually used these wire tenders that Subaru had put in here, and I ran them through here, kept the wire tended, and I ran the yellow wire underneath the loom. And if I can, there we go. Oh my lord, the lighting, Jesus. Okay, so we're never gonna be able to get this, are we? There, perfect. So right there is where I cut the top of that, and I'm going to put a piece of tape over that to secure it as well. So one of the first things we're going to do inside the car is actually start removing some trim, so we can get to everything where we need to. Okay, and I believe there's a push clip on this one somewhere. Nope, that one just twists up there as well. Nope, there she is right back there. I don't know if I can get that with my fingers, but you can actually see it right there. I might not need to actually, good Lord, this freaking wiring out of this car. I really think we can get to it, but I'm going to get a screwdriver. I'm going to pull out that clip there. And the next part we need to pop off is this panel here. Easy peasy. There. Now we can see everything that we need to see for the most part here. See, we need Phillips screwdriver. We're going to pull this screw here to get this panel off right here so we can put the actual switch in. So I'm going to pop the clip out and get this piece off right here. Take this off to pull this off. The fuse block cannot really be separated from this. This is all the fuse block, and it's all where the harness of the car goes. And my initial plan was to actually pull this all off and get to the wire under that 15 amp fuse and splice in the wire properly instead of just sticking it under the fuse, which makes me sick to my stomach. However, it's getting late in the day and I don't feel like messing with this and dissecting an entire wiring harness, and I suck at electronics anyway, so unfortunately that's what we're going to do. Left all these interior panels off so we can see. This one actually had the Phillips here, and there was another one right over there, and it just pulled off. Now I've left this off, and I haven't put the switch in yet, but to show you where it goes. This little dead spot right here comes out from right here. So you can just push that little spot down right in there. I doubt I can do this one-handed. Luck has long since left me, and I don't feel like breaking anything, so I'm going to get a different screwdriver and use two hands. You're going to pull this blank out, and the actual switch that came with the kit slides right in here. So there's the wire connected, and I've already tended my wires. So this is what you have to do. You pull out that 15 amp blue fuse, and you're supposed to fold the wire up underneath it, which I freaking hate to the point where I want to risk cursing the bad words onto the YouTube. And I put my ground wire underneath the hood latch. So that's kind of all there is to it for the wiring under here, except for dealing with this mess that we have here. But I'm just probably gonna bundle it like I usually do when I have too much wire here, bear with me, like this, and just put a zip tie around it and get it up out of the way. And this right here plugs into the back of the switch that goes in this panel. So get your wires tended and pop this panel back in, and then we're going to go back up front and finish installing the lights. Trick. So I was so unhappy with the fuse and having the wire stuck up under the fuse in here like we just did. I looked all around and found another switched positive, and if you take off the bottom part and the side panel here, the second wire tender here, and there's a wire clip. We're gonna pull that down, and I've already cut the shrink wrap back so you can see this green wire is switched positive. So that's the wire we're going to splice into. So we're going to take the wire that we stuck under the fuse up under there, and we're going to run it up over here, and I'm going to partially skin this wire because I don't want to cut it, and we're going to splice the switched power wire, the red wire with the wiring kit, onto this green wire. So I peeled the wire back, just the insulation off the wire. The camera will focus, because I didn't want to actually cut the wire, but I suppose you can do that. I did not, and I wrapped the red wire around the green wire. I don't know why the camera's not focusing. Wrapped the red wire around the green wire, and I'm going to put a little bit of solder on there, and then I'm going to wrap that really nicely and put all the shrink wrap back on it. And if I can, I'm going to actually de-pin this so I can put a piece of heat shrink around that wire on its own. And then we're going to reassemble, and it should work just the same. And this is a more permanent solution as opposed to just sticking the wire under the fuse. Well, that is my laughable soldering job, but it's functional. So what I'm going to do now is just wrap the wire and pin it back in and hook it all up. Okay, this is probably the more difficult part without removing the bumper. So the way these lights go in is they have to come in from the back of the bumper. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually push the light in here. We've got to find our wire. Right there it is. And we've got to connect it to the back of the light, like so. And then the supplied hardware kit is rubbish, like they all tend to be. So, like I did in one of my last videos, I've got these clips that I buy off eBay, like 10 bucks for 25 of them. And the two holes, I use the other light, the two holes actually line up into these little pockets. So it's got to go in like this and then like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting these clips along the top here on this light in here. Ignore my phone going off in the background. And this is going to be a bit difficult doing it blind and from inside the bumper. So we're going to do this like that. Get that lined up on there as best we can. And just like that, I've taken the light back out of the bumper. So we're going to, just like that. Just like that. And of course, everything I always need is exactly out of reach. So then, next step is to run our building. Crap, all over the place. These are frickin' nuts. It's just a fog light, so it doesn't have to be on there like the world's going to an end. And that those just don't clip in very good, do they? That is, to say the least, nerve-wracking. And that should be that. So there it is. That is basically it. I'm going to do the other side, but instead of putting that on camera too, we're just going to go straight up here and finish this. So the only other thing we got to do left is actually bolt this wire on here, put the battery tender back on. or the battery lead back on. And that's pretty much it. And I don't like that. That is just flimsy, but I think it looks pretty sharp. So there it goes. That's our fog light install.
Behind me you'll see a car.